So you mentioned a little bit about your experience as an immigrant. Your parents came here when you were 2 years old. You grew up in Montreal with no one else, like none of the leaders looking like you. How different do you think it is today?
Yeah, so when I grew up in Montreal and I went into nursing, I worked in one of the hospitals, local hospitals in my community, and really nobody in management. There was no person of color, or there was many women, but not many people of color in management. So it was hard to believe that that was even possible because it was never reflected around me. I think it's changed. When I moved to Toronto, in fact, I found Toronto quite different, a lot more diverse, and a lot more people of color and different minority groups in different leadership positions. I do think it's changed. Even in Montreal, it's changed. I think there's more opportunity for people of color, people from different minority groups. But I still think it's a challenge. I still think the representation isn't as much as it should be. And I do think we as leaders, all leaders, including leaders who are from different minority groups and people of color, need to be actively supporting and encouraging and opening doors for people of minority groups and people of color to move into leadership positions. And I think that's a responsibility we must have as leaders ourselves.
When I was speaking to another CEO, he said when they advertise for senior leadership positions, they actually don't get a lot of applicants coming from diverse origin. That speaks to more of that, where exactly is the issue and what do we need to do about it?
I also think, it's a complex issue. I don't think it's a simple issue. I think it starts from making sure that young children of color, from different minority groups are given the opportunity to get a good education, to be able to see different role models and see that there are different career paths that they too can aspire to. So I think it starts there. And then I think each organization needs to take responsibility to make sure that their organization reflects the diversity of their community. Truthfully, for me, I would not want to go to an organization where there was no one else who looked like me, or it would be very hard, I think, for people to do that. So you need to create a welcoming environment where people of color and people from diverse community backgrounds feel like they belong, that they can be a part of. And I think at the senior leadership executive levels, you need to have more executives from different backgrounds and people of color so that you can attract more talent from those communities. So I think it starts there. So every organization needs to look at what they need to do in their organization to create a much more diverse workforce, a much more welcoming environment to then attract talent from those other communities.
And as a woman of color, did you ever face any challenges or adversities when you were climbing up or moving into more senior leadership positions?
So I'm going to be really honest, and I think this is something I learned from a friend and a colleague of mine. I think I had it much easier than, say, a woman from the Black community. I think people from the South Asian community, or people who are brown like me, I think often are viewed in a very different way than people who are Black. And that's just the honest truth, right? The South Asian community are seen as smart, hard workers, and they're treated that way. And so I do think South Asians have been given more opportunity compared to individuals from the Black community and women from the Black community. So I can't say I have faced the same level of barriers, discrimination or racism that potentially Black women have, or individuals from the Black community. So I'm going to acknowledge that. So I'm going to say that straight off. And then I think there's issues with gender, right? Just women being in leadership positions. I don't, I can't say that I've faced too many challenges. I've been really, really fortunate to work in organizations and with leaders who really believed in diversity, gender equality, and really supported, everyone's capability to achieve their potential. So I've been really, really fortunate in my career. So I can't say I've personally experienced too much in terms of barriers or racism or discrimination, as I suspect some of my colleagues from the Black community or other individuals may have.
And what can we do as leaders to support this, to improve the system?
I think again, it's about. I think it's a very complex issue, but it starts with what you believe in your organization, and that starts from the top, the executive, the CEO, the executive director, the leaders, the board, in terms of their embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion, making sure that it's not just words that they say, but that those principles are embedded in policy and practice and hiring practices. So I think it's that deep work that needs to be done, and it's not easy, and I don't think it's ever done. But it is that work, because again, you need to have a culture where you're promoting and supporting diversity, equity, inclusion. You're supporting an open environment where everybody can express their thoughts, opinions, ideas in a very safe and respectful way. And I think that's what leaders need to do, need to create those environments, create those cultures, and then again, ensure that their workforce reflects that diversity, so that people feel welcome, people feel that there are opportunities. I also think they need to think about how they support succession in their organization, and how they support who gets promoted, and do they give opportunities equally to everybody, and what does that look like? So I think there's a lot of deep work organizations need to do.
We still have a long way to go.
We absolutely do.